Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Smell of Steve, Inc., Volume 1, Number 0, Me and Eric. That's the official title. On the cover it just says Smell of Steve, Inc. presents. But in the indicia, that's if you're looking for it online, it's the official title. A Parable for Our Times. And this is the creation of Brian Sendelbach, who went by the name of Smell of Steve for a long time. He was in tons of indie anthologies I think even going back to the late 80s, a lot in the 90s. He was in Hyena, various Fantagraphics anthologies. He had a solo anthology comic from Fantagraphics. I believe it was called Loose Teeth or something. He even did a porno comic for Eros, which I've never seen. But I can't even imagine, because this guy is so zany and goofy. I can't imagine what his erotic is like. He's in the 2000s, he transitioned into being a hugely successful children's book author. And he's got a lot of kids' books out there that I guess are selling pretty well. But let's get back to Me and Eric. This guy's funny. I kind of want to see his kids' comics because he seems perfect for, children's books. He seems perfect for that because he's got a really absurdist sense of humor. He also has that thing where he just draws funny. His characters just look funny. This was published in 1996. So this is before he was a children's book author. I think this is even before he had his weekly comic strip in alternative newspapers. Could be wrong about that, though. This is a story about me and a guy named Eric Clapton. Eric used to be a famous rock and roll star. Here's a picture of the narrator. Me, Phil Collins. So in this comic, they just take people's names, celebrities' names, and just appropriate them for their characters. And it's also very important, we'll find out later, that almost everyone in this comic smokes giant cigars. So these two guys are buddies. They live they're squatting in a basement of a condemned building. And they're really into making comics. And they make them just for fun. And Phil Collins seems to be the more diligent and creative of the two. Eric Clapton just kind of dicks around most of the time. So Phil one day shows Eric his new characters who created those adorable candy heads. And a little while later, Phil Collins is walking home with some groceries, and he sees a billboard for a new cartoon on CBS called The Candy Heads. And he goes home and he tells Eric. And he says, someone stole my idea, I think. And Eric Clapton says, nobody else has seen it. That's impossible. Maybe it's just a coincidence. And then a few days later, Eric packs up his stuff and says, I have to go to stay with my sick mother. And leaves. Before he leaves, he installs a telephone. He tells Phil that it's because he doesn't want him to get lonely by himself. And he never has a chance to be lonely because every freaking day, Eric is calling him up saying, hey, what are you working on? Hey, what comic are you working on? Tell me about the new strip. And, he's making up all these characters. He makes up this character named Mr. Fast, the fastest guy around. Of course, within a few weeks or something, he sees a Mr. Fast comic book on the stands, selling like hotcakes. So he can't help but think, like, somebody's stealing my ideas. And this goes on and on. And after a while, he starts noticing how nobody in town seemed to be poor anymore. Everyone was drawing comics and becoming rich. Everyone except for him. But then the Beatles came along, and that was the end of comic books for a while. No more comic books. And the Beatles are just burning and ripping up comic books. It's just so nuts. See what I mean about just drawing funny? Even if this had no words, I would laugh at that drawing. So after that, Eric moved back in with Phil. They decided to concentrate on music. So Eric can barely hold his guitar, and Phil writes all these catchy tunes. They're just flowing out of him. His first big song he writes is I Like Napkins. It was about napkins. Right after he played the song, Eric got up and said, I have to do something outside. And the very next day, I Like Napkins was #1 on the charts and climbing. And then Eric moves out again. My other mother is sick, he says. But this time before he leaves, he installs a microphone. So, Phil just continues making up all crazy little songs. Phooey on chop suey, I'll never eat that crap. I think it tastes like pooey. I'd rather take a nap. And the next day on the radio, coming next, Phooey on chop suey, the new hit song by Richard Marx. I totally forgot to tell you guys, sorry about this. But all those rich cartoonists, they're all named Lionel Richie, Richard Marx, Whitney Houston, Michael Bolton, even though they look nothing like them. So it's almost like there's this cabal of people who keep somehow ripping off his stuff. So Phil one day gets fed up. He's like, I'm going to follow the cord on this microphone, see where it leads. Maybe that'll answer who's been ripping me off. And he follows it through the city. Everywhere he goes, he sees his songs and his comic characters being read, being listened to, posters on the wall, billboards. So finally, the cord leads to Eric Clapton Industries, Inc., the headquarters. It's a big corporation. When he climbs up the cord to the top story, he sees all those, Richard Marx and et al., and at the head of the table is, of course, Eric Clapton. And they're all toasting themselves to a record year. Profits are going through the roof. And Phil jumps on the desk. And he finally confronts Eric. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He's full of rage, but he's not a violent guy. And everyone's just waiting with the held breath to see what he's going to do. And then all of a sudden, the building starts rocking, and they hear something loud and explosive. A UFO crashed into the building. Yeah, the plot turns in this are just completely nonsensical. That's why it seems like it'd be a good children's book writer. So he woke up in the rubble of the building. He's kind of in a daze, so he just walks around mumbling and tripping over body parts. A little arrow tells us this is the leg of one of the Beatles. He finally finds Michael Bolton, someone who's alive. He says, Eric Clapton, where is he? And Michael Bolton says, Eric who? Eric who? He finds someone else and asks him the same question. This guy says, Clapton, never heard of him. When he looks in the phone book, there's a space where Eric Clapton's phone number should be. So somehow the explosion not only destroyed Eric Clapton, but it had wiped all memory of him off the face of the earth. And Phil Collins is like, ha! He's happy. Epilogue. What happened after that, you ask? Well, as you can see, these days I'm not hurting for money so much. So Phil's doing pretty good. He's pretty rich, actually. And we see he has a profitable company now. And why is it profitable? Because he has a speaker attached to a microphone that goes all the way to some little place in the slums And there's this little dude there who just sings into it all day. Clipping fingernails, I'm clipping fingernails. And Phil is like, that's it, another top 10 hit. Special bonus epilogue. In the wreckage of the Eric Clapton building, they found a leg of one of the Beatles, which went on to have a successful solo career. And he's singing Yesterday by the Beatles. God, I need more Brian Sendelbach. I gotta get those loose teeth, man. I never got picked those up for some reason. And I think I'd always see them in like cheapo bins, but I never got them. Stupid me. And then they have this pretty long written thing about, it's supposedly the Smell of Steve Incorporated story. Them talking about being a purveyor of comedy product and how they go through all these steps to make the perfect comedy product. It's a huge corporation, all these levels. There's like idea men. There's a sketch artist. Everything has to be approved and reviewed. It's pretty, it's good writing with all these great illustrations. Even continues on the back cover. Seems like he's pretty good with color. It's a shame he didn't use this back cover for a nice, full color illo. But I guess he really wanted to finish this this fake article. So that's it for me and Eric. Smell of Steve Incorporated, Volume 1, Number 0. I have no idea where you'd find this. I think this was self-published. These guys just put it out. But it's a really nice little comic. Like I said, cardstock covers, just a solid, nice little production. And if you ever see it, I wouldn't be surprised if this is in cheapo bins. I don't think Brian Sendelbach ever set the comic world on fire, which is a shame, because now I'm converted and I want to find all of his stuff. I know I have a lot of his stuff in those anthologies I mentioned, because I bought a lot of anthologies back then. So I'm sure I have his stuff, a lot of his stuff in various titles that I don't even remember. But that's it for me and Eric. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope you can find it. It's funny stuff. Great cartooning. It's just certain cartoonists, man, to me, I guess it's personal. They just draw funny. Guys like B. Claban. You just look at their stuff, and you don't even need the joke. It just looks funny. M.K. Brown's like that. There's a few artists that just have that knack. But that's it for this episode, and thanks for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.